Okay, we're live. We're live. Hey, folks, this is RotorStorm331. Back to doing some more streaming before our official stream kicks off around 6. Today, we're going to finish up the final guides for Breath of Fire 2. Namely, Bow and Blue are the last ones to do. So, we're going to get those officially out of the way. And I hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving and enjoying the weekend. So, we're going to get started right now. So, we're going to cover our Healing Hunter here, which is Bow. Like Cat, he's also started a trend that lasted up until Breath of Fire 4, in which you get party members from the Grassrunner clan. So he's the first character from that clan to make an appearance in Breath of Fire games. So anyway, Bow is our first ally that we get in the game during prologue, and unfortunately, Bow doesn't really get a whole lot of early usage due to the fact that due to storyline reasons, he becomes unplayable until you can find Patty and bring back proof that Bow wasn't the criminal in this case. But Bo does definitely need a lot of catching up to do by the time he rejoins the party at that point in the game, because just about everyone's about near level 20 by then. Bo will probably be around the levels that where you last had him. So Bo's stats actually start off pretty well balanced, but they eventually start tilting towards the following categories. He has 154 for wisdom, so his wisdom is very high. Strength is his second highest, and agility being his third. Unfortunately, wisdom doesn't really matter a whole lot since that governs crits. And Bo does have some decent strength. He does outage. Well, I shouldn't say he outedges Sean, but it's pretty close in general. But one of the things that does make him pretty useful is the fact that he can use twin bows and auto bows. Auto bow allows him to attack all enemies, while twin bow, which if you watch other videos, enables him to attack twice on one enemy. Technically, it's pretty weak in terms of some of the stronger bows that he gets later on. But if you do decide to max out party member stats, Bo will be able to deal pretty high damage in general with all of his stats increased, like luck and strength, to ensure that he gets some pretty high damage with twin bow. But otherwise, if you're playing like a normal playthrough, it's best to just stick with powerful bows in general for him to use. So unfortunately, his weapon of choice, crossbow, Bow faces a identical problem with Sten giving lack of weapons. His best weapon early game is pretty much the fire bow, which you can get from Heckler's store, and he won't be able to get any new bows until you get access to Ice Bow from the Sky Tower. Then after that, he'll be able to start getting some better weaponry. Bow's pretty unique because of the fact he can equip some decent light and heavy armor for the most part. But due to that, it's kind of very hard for him to get very good gear like hero armor and such on him. Bo pretty much functions pretty much as your healer. He's identical to Rand. Similar to how Capcom decided to go with Rand, they did the same with Bo. Bo is pretty much your guaranteed go-to healer. The downside is that even if you get him to level 99, he will only have up to 270 AP. Even at level 50, he only has like 199, which is kind of a lackluster amount of AP you need to fully function as a healer, pretty much. This is because Renew X and Cure X, unfortunately, have very high casting costs. Well, technically, Renew X only has 20, but Cure X, on the other hand, is very expensive, so you'll probably only get like 3 usages at level 50 for the most part. Plus, if you do decide to recruit the carpenter that cooks stat items and whatnot, you can easily cook up biscuits to give you both defense up and Cure X at the same time. But technically, Bo functions pretty well with healing. He does have a few defense spells like Defense Up and Defense X. He doesn't really have any offense spells, so he makes a pretty good candidate for to be taught the spells from Barrows if you do decide to recruit him. And that way he can take advantage of his pretty decent wisdom stat. But overall, Bo just has some pretty wacky stats in general. Of course, his stamina is not nearly as great at level 50. Of course, That's only due to the fact that Sten has a pretty decent, much more higher stamina than Bo here does. But those all body armor options are actually pretty good. Not to mention you can equip the Medusa shield, which is arguably one of the best shields in the entire game for defense wise, and the ability to cast attack up as an item. So being your go-to healer, he's going to be pretty heavily used along with Rand. So it's definitely well worth getting Bo caught up with the rest of the party once he rejoins. So it's going to take quite a while to get him caught up, but eventually he will make a pretty decent party member for pretty much most of the game, and he'll get you out of most of your situations in regards to healing. So now that we've gone over an overview of Bo's stats and overall, let's go ahead and go over his combat and field abilities. So Bo has the ability to shoot. Basically, what that does is that when you press the Y the first time, he'll fire. He'll fire from his crossbow, and the first time you press it, he will basically load his crossbow up before you can fire. So you can definitely hold on the Y before you can fire, so that way you can target your targets. Yeah, let's get out of here. But technically, this allows you to pretty much hunt animals. And you can use that to hunt for meat from certain targets, like the boars, deer, and birds, and even the grizzlies, if you're lucky enough to strike them down. But I prefer cat for hunting because you do have to load up the crossbow, and you do have to release the Y button to fire immediately. You can't really just rapidly fire, unfortunately. So I don't really consider Bo to be a very good hunter in comparison to cat. Of course, we'll get to Blue's way of hunting eventually when we do her guide, but technically his field ability is pretty decent. So anyway, we're going to go into battle, and we're going to go over Bo's combat ability. It's shot. He has a 50-50 chance of either taking out an enemy completely. It functions pretty much of an instant death attack if successful. But he does. It is based on RNG, so he might or might not even take out the enemy. So right here, he only did 1 damage, so it failed. But when it succeeds, it can be used to defeat enemies pretty easily. Of course, this won't work on all enemies. Some of them are protected against instant death, so this will usually fail if it does. But because of the randomness of whether or not it succeeds or not, it's not a very decent ability to use. Not in combat. It does have a few usages, because it can take out the giant gong heads on John Ao sometimes. Those monsters are notorious for casting Cure 4, and that could be a bit of a problem. So, Shop does have its usages, but the coin flip 50-50 is kind of, via RNG, is kind of a nuisance, in my opinion. So it's not really a good ability. So anyway, we're going to go into Township and have Bo fuse into his only known fusion form, which requires you to have both Seni and Shin for this. This gives him his, what most fans would refer to as the Iron Man fusion. So basically, Bo does get stat increases when he fuses into this form, and he becomes somewhat of a robotic giant in general. So as you can definitely tell with all shamans, he does get a bit of an increase on a good chunk of his stats, namely his wisdom, and his offense, defense, and vigor, and even his AP go up in this form. So now that we got Bo into this form, we're going to go into battle, so we can display his combat ability. I don't know if he can still hunt in this form. I would have to check it out if we get a chance to see the hunting grounds again. But anyway, his combat ability in his shaman form is spray. Basically what it does, it allows him to do the same thing as Sean's jab, but a little bit more stronger than that. So basically this will target all enemies and deal probably split damage or whatnot on all of them. Unfortunately, we only have one enemy to deal with here, but technically spray is pretty decent. assuming if split damage isn't taken into account, this is actually way better than jab that Sean has normally. All right, so we got multiple enemies, so I'm going to try it out here. Ooh, it actually showcases pretty high damage, so this is actually way better than Sean's jab in general. But yeah, so that's basically Bo's fusion form and its combat ability. So we're going to go ahead and defuse Bo right now and then go over his spells next. Oops, jumped the gun there. So anyway, these are the following spells that Bo learns if I level up. In general, he won't have any spells when he officially joins on the start of the game after Paralogs, so we're going to go ahead and cover those right now. Cure 1 has the same effect as an herb. This restores 40 HP. Pretty decent early on during the time you do have Bo. Cure Poison is the next spell you get. This allows you to cure Zombie of Poison. Of course, Zombie is pretty notorious given the fact that if any party member becomes a zombie, they'll start attacking your party members and deal high damage while they're at it. So Cure Poison is very helpful from start to finish, even when Heal becomes available. Defense Up is basically a buff spell that allows you to boost up a party member's defense. Self-explanatory there. Cure 2, which you'll get around level 17, I believe, or 16, which will allow you to restore HP up to 100 points, same as Help Bell. Renew is basically a revival spell that has a 70% chance of reviving one party member with 1 HP. I recommend using Life Pills because that's actually more reliable than Renew here, unfortunately. Heal, which you'll get in the later 20s for Bo, is basically allows you to recover any status element that the party members are suffering. It does way more than Cure Poison does, and that is very helpful, even with AP being used. Defense Up X allows Bo to boost up the entire party's defense. Once you start making biscuits, that becomes somewhat obsolete because that combines Cure X and Defense Up X together, but this is a good spell to have on hand to buff up the entire party immediately. Cure 4 enables Bo to heal one party member's HP completely. This also has the same effect as Roast and Extracts, so be sure to use those if you don't have those items in general. Cure 3, of course, has the same effect as Vanilla Extract. This allows Bo to heal up the entire party up to 120 HP. This is very helpful. It's a lot more reliable than Cure X, given the fact that it's a little bit more cheaper to use, even though it doesn't fully recover the entire party's HP. But still a very good handy spell to use once you get it. Renew X has the same effect as Life Pill. This fully revives the party member that's been KO'd back to full health, and has only 20 AP use, so this is actually way better than Renew. Cure X is the only spell that Bo gets access to the entire game. This allows him to restore the party members, the entire party's HP completely for 50 AP. This makes it a very expensive spell, and as I said before, given Bo's very low AP, he probably won't he'll be able to use it only a few times, but he'll run out of AP, unfortunately. So be very careful when you decide to use this multiple times. This also makes Bo a pretty good candidate for using the Y spells if you have any in stock. Alright, so we went over Bo's spells, so let's go over his endgame equipment. Bo here, for ultimate weapon, his ultimate weapon is Death Bow. I'm not really sure how this weapon is. I don't know if it has an elemental priority, or the fact that it just doesn't work against undead enemies, or anything like that, but this weapon is not a very strong weapon in general for a final weapon, even though you can easily get this in Beretta's shop, along with Rand's Kaiser Knuckle. But his second best weapon, which you do get during your first trip through Infinity, is the Buster Bow. This does have wind elemental priority into this weapon. Of course, along with that weapon, Fire and Ice Bow also have Fire and Ice elemental priorities if you do need them, if you want to keep them with those weapons just in case. Now, if you do plan to max out Bo's stats, the Twin Bow is definitely a well worth keeper because he can attack twice. So if he's lucky to score crits and whatnot, it'll be a very good weapon overall for him to have if you're going for max stats. Bo's best armor is pretty much the Sacred SH. You'll win these either from King Sludges or from Ifrits from Infinity. Of course, the King Sludges can be found in Giant Isle. Basically, it's arguably his best defensive armor, defense-wise, and gives him partial immunity to spell damage, but it doesn't always work every now and then, unfortunately, but it's a pretty good armor. Rainbow Robe is arguably well knowable for being his next best armor, and he can also equip Mother Robe as well. Rainbow Robe does have a few resistances that Bo can take full advantage of from certain elements. Brave Armor is also a notable mention because even though it's not his best defense weaponry, it can also boost up his offense a little bit. But if you're going for defensive gear, Sacred SH, Mother Robe, and Rainbow Robe would be excellent options for him to have for the armor options. Now keep in mind, this armor he has equipped can also be given to Ryu, Sean, and Sten as well. And speaking of those characters in Rand, Bo can also equip the Medusa Shield. So not only does this item, when used as an item, cast attack up, this also gives party members a very good, that can equip a very good shield overall. You can either win these from Knight Riders on Knight Rider Island, or you can purchase them for an expensive price from the Marina Rion between Kotlin and Vando. And of course, Shining Helmet can be purchased at Beretta's shop after Evrai is destroyed. And for accessories, I strongly recommend getting him the Shining Bracelet. You can get one for free during your descent into Infinity. Or if you want to take your chances, like I did, try to beat Croakings on Giant Isle to get them to drop this accessory. This accessory is very good for Bo and Rand because they're healers, and you definitely want to protect your healers from status elements. This will protect them from those, and I would strongly recommend giving to your healers. I would also strongly recommend giving him additional defenses through Iron Bracelet. If you want to boost up his offense, Hero Belt will also work nicely for him. And that concludes my guide for Bo. I am going to take a small break to rehydrate my throat, and then we'll get started with Blue, the legend. And once we get back, we'll be covering that as soon as we can. So hang tight, I'll return shortly.